Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I want to talk to you about the tyranny, oppression and attempted enslavement of the people of the UK, ladies and gentlemen, and what we can actually do about it lawfully and peacefully. And trust me, there is a solution to all of this. It's whether you have all got the courage to actually do it. It'll all become apparent as I go on. First of all, the government. The government's role in the tyranny and the corruption and the oppression and subversion and the treason against our country goes back to 1600 during the reign of Elizabeth I. But it's too in depth to go into in this short video I'm doing here. But that's all you need to know really, is since then we've been controlled by an elite group of people who infiltrated and have been controlling us ever since. And in 1801 we amalgamated with the East Indian Tea Company and became Great Britain the registered corporation business, a registered corporate business in 1801. That's all you really need to know. That's the start. And then in 1918 they were the advisors, really the minders, but they go along as advisors, but they make sure that, you know, their puppet does exactly as they say. And that puppet back then was David Lloyd George at the end of the First World War, in 1918. And his advisors went with him for the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, where they stripped the German nation of all their assets, took away some of the land, give it to Poland, etc., and also blamed them for a war that they didn't start. It was actually Austria that started the First World War, if you do your history. But they don't put that in the books. You have to research it for yourself, because they wanted to blame the Germans. But anyway, all that aside, but that was when the elites really started to up their game, ladies and gentlemen. And they knew they had to control the people. And they'd just been through a Jewish revolution in Russia. It wasn't a Russian revolution because it was a Zionist Bolshevik communists that butchered and slaughtered Christian Russians. So it was definitely not a Russian revolution. And the USA and our lovely country funded all of that with Lenin and Trotsky and Uncle Joe. Called him Uncle Joe, ladies and gentlemen, the amount of people he killed, but that's another thing. But anyway, so they knew they had to control the people. So they came up with, just like they did in America, a two main party system in the parliament. Democrats and Republicans in America, and here in the UK it was Labour and Conservatives. Labour took on the mantle of being for the working class, and the Conservatives took on the mantle for the rich upper class and also the up and coming and the rising middle class. And that's where it started to become divided politically. And obviously, if you followed one or the other, your mindset was for one or the other. So that's where the left and right nonsense started. There's no real left and right. You've been brainwashed into believing one certain narrative or another. Really, we're all the same. We've all got friends who agree on 90% of things. But that's where the left and right narrative came in. There's probably 10% on both sides who are extreme. The rest, like myself, like all you probably watching here now, you just want a peaceful life. You want to live your life. You want to be left alone. You want to have friends, etc., etc. You don't want to really be bothered with all this bullshit, like what's going on in Ukraine. It's all bread and circuses, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it all is. It's all bread and circuses. But anyway, once they got the divide in place, that was the first part of the agenda completed, ladies and gentlemen. All they'd got to do then, basically, was implement things because they'd already got the divide there. So people was never going to be fully united again because of the political stance that the people was taking. So anyway, in the 1950s, they took away civics from the school curriculum. Now, if you know what civics is, it teaches you all about the government and stuff and what their role is to do with the people. And their role actually is they are elected supposedly democratically, but we know now that both sides are just puppets. They'll just take it to the same destiny and destination, but via a different route. That's all. But they all work for the same elite cabal. They're all puppets. But anyway, that's what they do, and you vote them in. Well, supposedly you have a chance every 4 years if you ain't happy to vote them in. And you're just voting for more of the same, really. Politics is dead. While you've got a shadow government, politics is dead. It's never going anywhere. Let that sink in if you can, because you need to, because that's the truth. You're going to never get anywhere with politics because the same people control both sides of the politicians. Labour, Conservative, Lib Dems, whoever it is. So politics is never going to make the change. But they're supposed to be there to govern you by consent. Govern by consent, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to what I'm telling you. You're governed by consent. You're not ruled. They're not your masters. They govern you by your and my consent. That's it. Simple. And then after that, banning of all that, you don't get to know any of this anymore. So, like I said, it was taken out. And because you don't know it anymore, you don't know what goes on. But you need to start doing and learning your constitution. Because in the late 60s to early 70s, they removed the teaching of common law from the school curriculum, ladies and gentlemen. And not just the school curriculum. The police cadets were no longer taught common law. It was taken out of the bar exam. So now, when lawyers, solicitors, barristers, whatever you want to call them, in the legal profession, when they do their degrees, their law degrees, it's all done via legalese. They know very little common law because that's not what's in operation in the UK at the moment. So it's total subversion of the Constitution by a tyrannous, corrupt government. And so that's what they did with your common law in the 60s and 70s. And Ted Heath, when it really started to ramp up, was in 1972, when Ted Heath signed the ECA Act. He knew it was treasonous, but he signed it because it was blackmailing him. Now, every government since the Ted Heath administration have all been tyrannous and corrupt and subverting and sedition, high treason against the people of this country ever since, because every single politician that's walked through them gates and gone into Parliament since 1972 has knew that our entry into the EU was both illegal because it didn't have a referendum, and it was also unlawful because it went against the Constitution. Let this sink in as well, please, ladies and gentlemen. They are complicit because anything, any legislation, any act that doesn't fall within the constraints of our rights, our Constitution and our common law should not be implemented, and it should not be passed. That is the crux of it. If it doesn't fall within the constraints of our Constitution, our rights and common law, it should not be implemented or it should not be passed. Now, there's plenty of incidents just in the last 2 years where this has occurred. One of them was locking you all down. That's a no-no. That's not within the constraints of the Constitution or common law. Where making you wear a mask, that's going against your free will. That's your inalienable rights coming in, ladies and gentlemen. They have no right to do that either. They cannot never contravene your inalienable rights. Stop using the Human Rights Act, because that's an act they created. Hence, they created it because they had no control over the people with inalienable, unalienable rights. It depends where you live. Some people call them inalienable, some people call them unalienable, but they're the same thing. But anyway, it goes against them because everybody has God-born and God-given inalienable rights, and they are to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Them are the three. But liberty covers a wide range of things. Freedom to travel, freedom to choose, all of this. And the main one that they've done in the last 2 years, what they're still trying to do now, is remove cash. It's unlawful for them to even think about removing cash until they give the people, again, a referendum to see if the majority want cash removed. Like I keep telling you, you vote these in to do your will. These work for you, not the other way around. You're not their slaves. You're not they're not your masters. They actually serve you. They are civil servants. They work for the people. So they shouldn't be doing anything as severe and as important as removing cash without actually putting it to the people in a referendum so the people can vote and decide what's best for the majority. Not what's best for the government, not what's best for the cabal. You really need to start educating yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Now I'm going to move on to the police. I'm sure the majority of the police, unlike the government, never set out to be part of any of this tyranny or oppression. But like the rest of us, they were not taught common law in cadet training. It was taken out like it was taken out of schools. And myself and Nathan Kirkton, who formed CMW after we left the Dragons, we've discovered this and had it put in the court on record. Because in a recent case that we had, one of the constables on the stand admitted that they wasn't taught it. And there lies the problem, ladies and gentlemen. We've got police constables who walking around in a uniform, and police, a constable is an abbreviation of constitutionally able. That's what a constable is. It's supposed to be constitutionally able, and they're not. And somewhere from the Ted Heath government up to now, someone high up in the police has contrived with the government to take the police from an impartial entity that's supposed to be just uphold the law, common law, and they've took that out of the training and replaced it with common purpose, commerce training. So now your police have gone from police constables to police officers, and you've gone from a police constabulary to a police force. Now that in itself is intimidating word. Police force. Why do you need force if people ain't doing it? You're just there to uphold the law. And they're not doing that anymore. But somebody high up in the police, even now, needs to be held accountable for taking the police from local constabularies, etc., to now police forces. And you've got police officers, policy officers. And all they're there for now is this. Because that's all they've been trying to do. Hunt down and extort money from people. Let's see what we can fine them for. Let's see if we can get them on anything to fine them to get money for the corporation. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, don't take my word for it, go and look it up yourself. The police are also a registered corporate business at Companies House. And every constabulary has to have, they have a quota that they have to meet every year. A lot of people probably didn't know that, but that's what happens. They are also a registered corporate business, the police. And the police are supposed to serve the people and the Queen. Same. But they've been turned into a private security company to look after the government. They've become the government's own private army. Now, something's gone wrong there, and we can sort this, but something's gone drastically wrong there, because the police are not standing on their oaths anymore. And all this bashing and whatever the people, it's assault on the sovereign, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very serious offence when these police bashing people with batons. But this can all be sorted out. All I'm trying to tell you, police, is go and do the research and go and learn your common law, what you are supposed to be upholding, instead of just taking it. It's not there. Trust me, it's well and truly there. And you're going to come down to earth with one massive bump when all this comes out in the future. And it will come out, because I'm going to explain at the end how we can get these people lawfully and peacefully and hold them accountable for everything that they are doing. So if you're the police, you need to look at go and do the history on the police, see what they was actually there for. You're not there to protect a corrupt, tyrannous government. You are there supposed to stop crime. And you are complicit in that tyranny and corruption at the moment. You need to have a change of mindset. That's the police. Now, what else these people have done, ladies and gentlemen? The courts have become corrupt as well. All the judges in the courts have been corrupt, because what they've done, because of our birth certificates, we are now legal fictions, fictional characters, all capital letter characters. And we live in a system called Admiralty law. It's the law of the high seas. It's designed for crew members that basically used to sign up to go on a ship, and when the ship left the dock, while it was on the seas, the crew members basically had no rights. They had to do and live by the rules of that ship until it went back to dry land and redocked somewhere else. Then their land rights came back and they became, living men again. But while they was on the ship, they came under Admiralty law. Now, there are some good judges. I've just proved it earlier with myself and Nathan, and they will uphold your constitutional rights and the law if you go into court and you know what you're talking about. If you go into a court ignorant and just shout common law, you don't know what you're talking about, and you haven't learnt anything, then you'll be treated as such. This is why we say it's very important for people to educate yourselves, because if you educate yourself and go in, the judge has got no option but to do what's the lawful. It's only about our ignorance why you keep getting fined, etc. And we're living under this maritime law system solely through our birth certificate, which again, when our parents signed it, when we've signed it before we knew, we used to sign our children's birth certificates. It's unlawful and it's fraud, and it can be rectified because full disclosure was not given, ladies and gentlemen. But I'll explain how we do all this and rectify all this very shortly. But it can be done. Now, the military, the same thing applies to the military. The military, the high-up generals in the military, you've got to know by now. There's plenty of evidence out there. Ignorance again is no excuse. You've got to know by now you are serving a corporate business. It's not a legitimate government. It doesn't serve the country. It serves its own means. And you are their own private army, and you are working for a corporate business, like working for Asda or Morrison's. You're working, you're putting on a uniform, and you're going to do Asda and Morrison's dirty work. And that's exactly what you're doing when you pull on that uniform and go and do things for this tyrannous, corrupt government. And this needs to stop. And this is not just here, by the way. It's all around the world. All governments are registered corporations. So every army around the world puts on that uniform and you're not fighting for your country, fellow countrymen and women, or like in this country, you're not doing it for the Queen. You're doing it for a greedy bunch of elite parasites that are out to enslave not just the people, but you lot as well, and the police. This is what none of you are getting. The police, when they've got all these drones that they can fly now, you've seen them testing the technology. Once all this is in place, it's bye-bye police constable. You ain't going to have a job anymore. You're just going to be thrown on the credit system, this new digital credit system, along with everybody else, and you ain't going to be getting no pensions. We've told you this many, many times, because this is all going to happen by 2030. And you ain't going to have no pensions. Trust me, it might not look like it is, but they're going to ramp things up, and you are helping. And the same with the military. Every time you pull that uniform on, like you did in Iraq and Libya, you're destroying people's lives to swell the bank accounts of the rich elites, the corporations. You're not fighting for good. You're not installing democracy. You're taking democracy away. But again, I can only give you what's the truth. It's up to you to search your soul yourself and find out and morally do the right thing, because it's not the right thing. Now, here's the solution, ladies and gentlemen. The Queen is either part of the tyranny and the corruption, or she's been kidnapped, because the barons in 2001 invoked Article 61. I think it was a Treaty of Rome or something, or I can't remember what it was exactly now. It's too far ago. I've put the video on the end of it anyway, so you'll know what it was for. But the government was being treasonous, and they met in 1999, 64 of them, and then they whittled it down to 25 in 2001, who petitioned the Queen and invoked Article 61. The Queen had 40 days to reply. She didn't. On the 39th day, a secretary wrote back and said, yeah, we acknowledge that this is legal and legitimate, but nothing else was ever done. So one of two things happened. The Queen is complicit in the treason, and she's gone to the barons, or, what you're going to do about it, thinking that they ain't going to get the backing of the people, or the Queen is actually being kidnapped, ladies and gentlemen. I think she is part of it myself, because of the coronation oath. If you look at the coronation oath, she hasn't done and upheld half of anything. And like I said now, you, the police, the military, you've all taken after the Queen. The government's tyrannous and corrupt. You're part of the corruption at the moment, but they're enslaving all the children. They're going to enslave your children. So she, at this moment in time, is breaking her oath, what she did to you. So your oath to her is null and void at this moment in time, because when there's tyranny and corruption on this realm, it's every living man and woman on this realm duty, moral duty, and also your lawful duty to enter Article 61 till such tyranny and oppression is removed, we've got redress, and common law is restored to this land. Now that oath, take my word for it again, go and look it up. The Article 61 oath is the highest oath you can take. It's above any police oath, it's above any military oath. The only oath that's bigger than that is the oath of the Queen. And that oath is null and void at the moment because the Queen has gone missing. She's been disbanded, either by the government or because she's tyrannous and she's allowed them to disband her. Now it's our duty to reinstall the Queen to the rightful place, head of the monarch. And like I've just told you, it can be done, ladies and gentlemen, but we've got to have the courage for every person, well, not person, person's the wrong word, man. Every living man or woman needs to get themselves into Article 61, notify the barons in, and then the barons take over and the barons do the rest. There's no bloodshed, no violence involved. That's the beauty of it. And the other beauty about Article 61, it cannot ever be infiltrated. Because everybody does it individually. You all sign your own form, you all send your own form off, you notify the barons. And when the masses do it, that's the beauty of it. There's no infiltrating. Nobody can come in and let the government know what's going on because the government now, we're coming for them. Article 61. And it cannot be stopped once it starts. This cannot be stopped. Once millions of people get into Article 61, it's finished for these treasonous people. Because nothing trumps this constitution. We have a very unique constitution in our country, ladies and gentlemen. More than any other country, because our ancestors had the foresight and the forethought to think, hang on a minute, this might happen again. So they put clauses in our constitution to make sure it can never be subverted. It can never be no sedition ever. There can never be no conspiring because it's all treasonous and used to be hung for treason. That's why it was so powerful. Okay, nowadays they probably put them in prison. Well, it's still going to take the life and the freedoms away from them. Well, like what they're trying to do to you. Now, how great was our ancestors, ladies and gentlemen? What brilliant people to have put that in them documents for us. So we can use them now, 100 years, 500 years time, and we don't have to go out and shed any blood or get involved in any violence because we hand it all over to the barons, and the barons, they organise everything. They'll organise a parliament till we can get a new one set up. They'll run it because they're used to doing it. The government will all be, and everybody else who's committed treason will be dealt with, and common law will be restored to this land, and you'll have back to no loss, no harm, no injury, instead of extortion. To me, it's a no-brainer, but I'm only one of millions and millions of people in this country. I've been in lawful rebellion, so has Nathan, so have a good many people, especially in CMW, for a good while. Now, the barons have been waiting since 2001. That's all they've been doing, waiting for people. They've gone there and they've gone, yeah, everybody, these are treasonous, we've invoked Article 61. What do you want us to do about it? And we've all gone, well, nothing. Well, it's still in force, so if you still want to do something, all you've got to do is go into Article 61. If we get enough interest from this video, we will do more on it. We're not going to keep wasting our time and trying to tell you your rights and what you can do about it lawfully and peacefully without having to get yourselves in trouble. You're protected because it'll be the barons that are doing it, not you. Then I don't know what to tell you. If you can't make a stand for your children that's lawfully and peacefully, then you ain't never going to, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I can say to you. And it's cowardice. I've got to be honest. This is cowardice. When you're doing this like this, it's cowardice because there's no no danger involved. It's just you switching your allegiance from the monarch and the tyranny to the barons so they can sort it out and bring you back your freedom. But it's up to you guys. I'm going to leave it there. I've attached the video to this at the end of the barons meeting in 1999. When they invoked Article 61, and then at the end I've put your rights under Article 61. So have a look and a watch anyway and see what you think. And then let's do it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's show these people who think they're above us and think they can control us. Let's show them who really has the power. Stay safe. Love every single one of you, and I'll speak to you all soon.
What I'm going to tell you may shock you. Back in 1999, 68 barons gathered to discuss whether entering the EU Treaty of Nice was unconstitutional. The evidence proved it would be an act of high treason to enter into any such agreement, so they put together a committee of 25 barons to petition the Queen. They gave the Queen 40 days to respond. The Queen's Secretary responded on the 39th day, acknowledging the validity of our constitutional rule. She failed to deal with the issue according to her constitutional and contractual duty as per her coronation oath of June 1953. So the Barons Committee invoked Article 61 of Magna Carta 1215 on March 23, 2001. So what this means is that the Crown has been disposed of all authority until we the people find redress and restore our common law and constitution. So for the last 19 years we haven't had any lawful government. There are also no courts of law with any authority at this time. We have been controlled and deceived by traitors and criminals in Parliament. The government has stripped away all our basic human rights and invoked war on its own people.
You talked about the app in midway, didn't you, Health Secretary? And we've still not got that app. You said the app, and we've still not got that app.
Thinking about all those wasted years, when everything worth living for is gone. And brother, I find it hard to keep fighting on. Falling down towards the abyss, the reaper embraces me with his kiss. It makes me want to refuse to care, to watch this all unfold, too much to bear. If this is the way it ends, if this is the way my race ends, if this is the way it ends, I can't bear to witness. If this is the way it ends, if this is the way my race ends, if this is the way it ends, I can't bear to witness. this is the way my race ends, if this is the way it ends, I can't bear to witness. If this is the way it ends, if this is the way my race ends, if this is the way it ends, oh, I can't bear to apathy and suicide. It's all over except for the crying, the whimper instead of the roar of a lion. The greatest race to ever walk the earth, dying a slow death with insane mirth. The tomb has been prepared, a race betrayed, a race betrayed. White men fight the fight towards the grave. If